everybody. My name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like, and today I have for you the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. And usually I do this thing where I split it up between books and manga. I've taken it a little bit further this year, so I really like the number 24 because it can be split up in so many different ways. I know that's a really random thing to say, but I truly do enjoy that. And I have taken this list of 24 books and broken it down into 6 different categories with 4 books in each of them. So, why don't we just start with the first category? The first category of books that I want to read in 2024 are physical books that I already own, and at the very top of that list is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I forget how heavy this is every single time, and then I pick it up, I'm like, oh my god. I got this out of a free little library a few months ago, and I'm just itching to read this. I cannot wait to pick this up. It's probably a book that I've wanted to read for like years. I don't even know how long. Ever since I first heard about this book, I've been like, yeah, I have to read that, and I finally have the opportunity to, so I will do so in 2024. Next up, we have Inferno by Dan Brown, and this is the book that I know for a fact has been on my TBR for the longest, at least physical TBR. There might be ebooks that I've owned a little bit longer, but I bought this book when I was in Italy. I was in Florence, and I meant to buy a copy in Italian, and I didn't. This is in English, and I just never read it. It's been, 2016 to 2024. It will have been 8 years come the spring. I just need to read this book. Then I have The Diviners by Libba Bray, which I thrifted, I want to say last year. So it's been a bit, but not too long. And I've honestly been putting this off because I feel like it's going to be a pick for the Nostalgia Train book club at some point. Violet let me know. So I've been wanting to save it for that event, but if it's not going to be a book club pick, then I could have just read it at any point. So regardless, whether it's a book club pick or not, I will be reading this next year. And the last book in this physical books category is The Penguin Book of Women Poets. Again, it's a book that I thrifted, and it's got poetry from women from all different countries and time periods, and it just sounds so interesting. I love poetry, and I meant to read this, I want to say sometime over the summer, and I didn't get around to it, and it just went back on the shelf to be forgotten about. It's got this gorgeous cover, and I just really want to read it. The second category is ebooks, because I have this habit where every 3 to 4 months I go to the store on my phone and scroll through the list of free books and just download a bunch willy-nilly, and then I end up reading like 2 of them and the rest stay there forgotten forever because I just don't go back to read them. So I've gone through and I've picked out 4-ish. There's technically more than 4 on this list, but you'll see when we get there. And these are the ones that seem the most promising, and I want to try and read them. The first on this list is Servant of the Crown by Paul J. Bennett, and this is an 11-book series as far as I can tell from Goodreads, and I have the first 4 because they were all free. And from what I can tell, it's a typical D&D type fantasy, and I really like those kinds of things. So if I could just read the first one to see if it's worth my time moving on to the rest of the series, that'd be great. The next item on the list is The Seeker's Shadow by Isadora Brown, and this is a 6-book series where I own the first 3 because they were all free and I downloaded them and then never even read the first one. This is an Alice in Wonderland inspired like urban fantasy, I think. That's the vibes I'm getting anyway. And again, I just want to read the first one to see if the rest of the books are worth my time. Next we have Beautiful Demons by Sarah Cannon, which technically I have read before. So Sarah has the first 3 books in her series as a permanently free box set that I downloaded years and years ago before I ever started watching her on YouTube or took her self-publishing course, before any of that. And I read the first one, and it's fun, and I just never read the other 2, and there are currently 11 books in this series, and she's been working on the 12th and final book for several years now, and I feel like that could be released sometime next year, so if I read the first one again, and then continue on with the series, I could catch up in time for the last book, but the only one that's technically on this list is the first one. And the last on this list is another box set, and this is called The Paranormal 13. This is like the first thing I ever downloaded onto my phone, and I think it's actually a collection of 14 books, because I'm pretty sure there's like a bonus one, but it's just a bunch of spooky books all by different authors that came together and made this box set. If I can read one of them, I will be happy with myself. I'm not going to try and read all of them because, again, that's 13 or 14. That's so many. So if I can just read any single one out of this box set, I will feel like I have accomplished something. Our next category is manga, and the first three on this list are going to sound familiar. They are Monster by Naoki Urasawa, Claymore by Norihiro Yagi, and Assassination Classroom by Yusei Matsui, and these three are all on my list of 30 books I want to read before I turn 30, and they are also all on my 23 books I want to read in 2023. I did start Monster. I read the first volume and I did really enjoy it, but it is dense. So I just read the first one and I'm like, I need a break, and then I never came back to it. So that's why that's still on there. Playmore and Assassination Classroom have not touched. So I will get to them next year. The last one on this list is Dorohedoro by Q Hayashida, and I just really want to read this because A, it's one of my boyfriend's favorite manga of all time. He loves it so much. And B, Laura recently read it and really loved it, and I trust Laura when it comes to manga, so that's why it has taken up the fourth spot on this list. Our fourth category is one that I'm actually super duper excited about, and that is new releases. I don't read a ton of new releases. Manga sometimes, because there's a couple of series that I'm caught up on, and so I buy the new ones when they come out. But like actual books, I tend to be a little bit behind on because I try not to buy books full price if I can help it. But these are 4 books that I am so excited for, and if I can, I will buy them as soon as they come out. First on the list is Tender Beasts by Lizelle Sambury, which comes out February 27th, and I'm so excited. I read Delicious Monsters when it came out this year, absolutely loved it. I wasn't a huge fan of her first duology. I read the first one and I thought it was just okay, and then didn't get around to the second one, but Delicious Monsters was so good, and I can't wait for her next book. It's like another horror thriller YA book. I really need to get my hands on it as soon as it comes out. Then we have Heavenly Tyrant by Shirin J. Zhao, and that comes out April 30th. This is the much anticipated sequel to Iron Widow, and it was supposed to come out this past August, but due to some complications, it was pushed back, and I just really, really want to read it. I read Iron Widow this past spring and absolutely fell in love with it. It's so fantastic, and I really need to read the sequel. The third book on this list is one that I don't actually know a ton about, and that is A Crane Among Wolves by June Her, and this comes out May 14th. And I've just been seeing a lot on social media about this, and it looks really cool. The cover, absolutely stunning. And so while I don't know a ton about the book itself, and I've never read from this author before, I just really want to pick it up due to the hype. And finally, we have The Wild Huntress by Emily Lloyd Jones, which comes out September 1st. You know I love Emily Lloyd Jones. The Bone House is my favorite book of all time, and this is another book set in the same world as that, and I just will be buying it as soon as I physically can, because it's just so exciting to be reading another book set in the same world as my favorite book. And now we're back to a category where I can actually hold the books up for you, and that is rereads. I reread quite a bit, but there are some books that I'm just really fondly remembering and wanting to go back to the story, so I've picked out 4 for this list. The first one is 100 Cupboards by N.D. Wilson. This is the first book in a trilogy. I don't actually know, it might just be called the 100 Cupboards series, but this follows 2 cousins named Henry and Henrietta, and they discover this wall of cupboards, and they go to different worlds through them. And I loved this book as a kid, and I found this at a thrift store, and it was like $1, so I bought it. and I just can't wait to return to this world. I distinctly remember reading this book in the car, which is weird because I used to not read in the car ever because I get carsick very easily, but for some reason I was reading this book in the car and that memory has stuck with me. But yeah, I will be rereading this book this coming year. Then we have The Graces by Laura Eve, which has been on the chopping block so many times. When I've done unhauls, I've been like, I really didn't love this one, I should give it up. But like, this cover is just too beautiful. I'm just obsessed with it. So I've decided that I will reread this, and if I can find it, I will finally read The Curses, I think is what it's called, which is the second book in this duology. And if I'm still not really feeling it, then I will unhaul it, which will be so sad because I just adore this cover. It was definitely a cover buy for me, and like, you can see why. Up next, we have The Night Watch by Sarah Waters, which I don't really read historical fiction very often, but I read this in 2017 when I was studying abroad in London, and it takes place in London, and I had a really good time reading it. It's really, really sad, but it's also extremely queer. I think almost all of the main female characters are lesbians, and then there's one male character who's gay, and it's just a really emotional time. I haven't read any other Sarah Waters books, but after I reread this one, I might want to pick up more by her. And the last book in the reread category is The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd Jones. You probably thought I was going to say The Bone Houses. I will be rereading The Bone Houses because I read that every September. I've done it the past 3 years, and I'm going to keep going with that as long as I want to. And I also want to be rereading The Drowned Woods because, like I said, she's got a new book in this world coming out in September, so I think it'd be really cool if I read the new release. Then I'll reread this one, which I read for the first time 2 years ago, I think, when it came out, and I haven't reread it since. And then I'll do my annual reread of The Bone Houses. I think that would be a lovely time, so that is why this is on the list. And then this last category is kind of like the ebooks, where it's not really just one book. This last category is entire series that I want to read. So yes, technically there are more than 24 books on my 24 books I want to read in 2024 list, but we're gonna ignore that. Let's just talk about these series. So first up we have His Dark Materials, starting with The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman, and I just have the first one here because I don't feel like holding up all three at once. I thrifted the first two in this gorgeous 10th anniversary edition back in September. Technically my boyfriend thrifted them, but he bought them for me. And then I ordered the first one to have a matching set, and I will be binging them. And I've never read this series. I know that The Golden Compass was a Nostalgia Train book club pick several years ago, and I couldn't get access to it, but better late than never, I guess. Then we have The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger, or Carriger, I'm still not sure how you pronounce that. This is book 2. Book 1 is currently on its way to me. It shipped like 2 days ago, and it's somewhere in Pennsylvania, but it hasn't made it to my apartment building yet. But I will have the full series pretty soon, and this is another series that I want to binge and do a vlog of. And sticking with the theme of holding up second books in series, we have The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. This is book 2, Scarlet. I don't own any of the rest of the books, but I think my mom said something about finding the rest of the series at the thrift store local to her, and she's gonna get them for me for Christmas. Whenever she sees books out and about that she thinks I'll like, she'll like send me a picture and be like, hey, do you want these? And I remember her asking about these, so I'll probably own the rest of the series physically at some point, but I've read the first 2 books in the series, Cinder and Scarlet. I read them back to back, I want to say this past spring, and really loved them. The first one a smidge more than this one, but I still really enjoyed this, and I just want to read the whole series. And finally, we come to the last entry on this list, and the last series that I want to read in 2024 is The Brother Band Chronicles by John Flanagan. If you are new here, you wouldn't know, but I have been rereading the Ranger's Apprentice series over the course of this past year, It's one of my favorite series of all time. I've loved it ever since I was like 10 years old, and I have come to the end of that, which is very sad, but that's how series go. They end, and I've decided for 2024 I'm going to be returning to the world of Brother Band Chronicles, which is a spin-off series that takes place in a different country during the course of the Ranger's Apprentice series, and obviously follows a new cast of characters. This is the like Viking inspired country. And I've only read the first 3 in the series, and I think there's 9 now. So that's gonna be a really fun time for me. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with Ranger's Apprentice, where I read one book each month to kind of space it out. And finally, we've come to the end of this video. There are so many books that I'm planning to get to in 2024. Let me know down below if you do a list like this, or if you make a smaller list, maybe only a couple of books that you plan to read in the new year. I really would like to know. But that is all for now. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.